Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Recur release as they continue to completely blow our minds. We've got another new figure that looks unreal. This is the Spinosaurus, and as you can see, this is actually in 1/42nd scale, so not following along with the 1/35th scale we saw in the T-Rex, so a little bit of a different scale for this guy. But you can see the box art looks great. We've got, again, that almost at this point now classic look with the yellow on the box, and then of course a nice shot of the figure, and then up here on the top you can see the Recur logo, and then on the underside you've got of course the barcode and everything. And then if we turn it around and take a look at the back, basically just a little bit of more information and the species name and everything. So let's go ahead, pop this out of the box, and we'll check it out. So just like we had with the T-Rex, we've got a really nice card here showing off the Spinosaurus. Again, a really cool kind of artsy image there. And then when we turn it around, we've got some information on the Spinosaurus, the scale, all of that fun stuff. Very nice, very thick, high quality card included. And then we've got our Spinosaurus itself, and man, without a doubt, that has got to be one of the best Spinosaurus figures on the market. Look at how good that looks. The sculpt is phenomenal. The paint is phenomenal. Very nice, naturalistic, really appealing to the eye tones of color on this one. I love the color scheme, especially the flashy stripes out there into the tail. Man, Recur absolutely continuing to blow my mind with how incredible the quality of their figures is nowadays. So let's go ahead and jump to a closer look, and we'll check this Spinosaurus out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Spinosaurus, you can see straight out of the gates that is one beauty of a head sculpt going on here. We've got really nice looking skin texture and fine detail all throughout the face. You can see the nostrils sculpted out right there. We've also got lighter and darker shades of browns as you move through the face. You can kind of see it lighten up as we lead back into like the eye socket area. The eye is painted with a yellow, given a nice black pupil. We have the crest of the Spinosaurus sculpted out up here on the top of the head, and you can also see it's painted with a nice reddish tone just to add a little bit of flashiness up there. We've got a nice light tone here for the lower jaw, which also looks good. Of course, we've got an articulated jaw, and as you can see, that mouth can open pretty wide when you get nice and close. Actually, before we even go into the inside of the mouth, you can see the skin texture of the lower jaw also looks really good. As we move up here into the mouth, though, you can see the teeth are all sculpted individually, and they are painted with kind of like a light yellowish sort of tone, it looks like. Yeah, definitely a light yellow or like an off-white. We can see the teeth here on the lower jaw as well. And if we look inside the mouth, look at that. That looks awesome. We've got a really nicely sculpted tongue in there. And I like that the tongue itself, I don't know if that's a separate piece that's been added in there, but it genuinely does not look like it's like one piece in there, which is a plus. I think that adds a lot to the realism of the figure. A lot of the time when you sculpt out a dinosaur, the tongue just kind of looks like it's, you know, continuing on the inside of the mouth as one part, but this actually looks like a separate piece, like that tongue could lift up at any second. So that's definitely a really nice dose of realism for the inside of the mouth. We also have a nice dark pinkish tone for the inside of the mouth. And when we look over here, look at that detail in there. Absolutely incredible looking detail on the inside of the mouth. And it does look like we actually have like a throat back there as well, which is a huge plus for the figure. And the jaw works really nicely as well. As we begin to move back here into the neck, you start to see a small line of ridges following along the spinal column. We can also see a darker brown following along the back of the Spinosaurus as you move down here into the side of the neck. You do see a lighter brown, and it continues to transition down into even more lighter tones. As you lead into the underside, you can see some pinkish tones on the underside of the lower jaw and throat. We can see the throat itself very nicely sculpted. Again, fantastic fine detail throughout. We can even see a little tensing in the neck of the Spinosaurus, as well as, again, a little variation to the browns moving through. And then as we lead up into that trademark Spinosaurus sail, you can see the fine detail of that area is absolutely incredible. The skin texture looks great. There's a good bit of variation to the scales and everything as you move through the course of the sail. But when you take a nice step back and you really examine the sail, you can see such really nice subtle application of the paint in that area as you have darker and lighter shades of browns that kind of almost like stripe through, adding just a little bit of flashiness up there in that area of the sail, and also looking really natural. Very impressive paintwork on the figure. You can see some kind of bumps following along the outside of the sail of the dinosaur as well. And as you move down into the side of the body, you see some osteoderms and stuff kind of following along, a few osteoderms moving through the side of the body as well. Really smooth application of the paint. Again, you can see like a light kind of an off-white striping leading down through the side of the stomach, as well as quite a few different variations of browns, transitioning to even like a yellowish brown, and then an even lighter tone for the underside of the Spinosaurus, which looks really good. As you move down into the arms, you can see the musculature is also very impressive. Definitely has an overall extremely strong looking arm to the Spino. You can see some wrinkling in the skin up there at the top of the arm, nice wrinkling in the joint of the elbow as well. And you can see, again, just really nice subtle variation of brown. You can see like a lighter shade of brown on the back of the arm compared to right here. Really nice paintwork like that always impresses me. We do transition to a darker brown as we lead down into the hands, and you can see the nails sculpted really quite nicely, the fingers as well sculpted nicely, all given that nice brownish paintwork. And then as we move back up into the stomach, you can see all sorts of skin wrinkles and folds and stuff here kind of bunching up as that leg is pushing forward, kind of bunching the skin up there in the stomach region. Another thing that's really cool for the figure that you may not even notice at first, until you get really close, you can see a nice dark wash is applied to the figure as well, helping to highlight the detail. And I love dark washes on figures, especially when they're really subtle with their application and they're not overly intense, because I think it just adds so much realism to a figure. As you move back here into the hip region, you can see a few lines of scoots moving over the top of the hip. As you lead down into the thigh, we can see again variations of lighter and darker browns throughout, kind of almost like orangish browns mixing in there as well. Nice muscle definition in that area, as well as of course the calf. You can see again that calf muscle looks very strong. We've got more variations of browns moving along the front of the knee itself very nicely sculpted. And as we lead down into the foot sculpt, again we transition back to a variation of a darker brown, and you can even see a little webbing there between the toes, which would of course help our Spinosaurus to swim, which I as well absolutely love. You can see the nails again sculpted quite nicely, all again given that basically a dark brown tone over the foot, which includes the nails of both the hands and the feet. And then as we move back up, you can see the skin here stretching off of the tail, leading into the leg here, into the thigh as that leg pulls forward. We can see the coloration lighten a bit as we lead out into the tail. And we have this really cool, super subtle striping effect as we lead out into the tail, where you can see a light, almost like a light gray or an off-white that stripes, but then there's also a dark brown on each side of those stripes, kind of highlighting and outlining the stripes, which looks really cool. We can also start to see the paddle-like tail pick up here, moving along the top. And again, look at how incredible the fine detail is on this figure. Super crisp sculpt work there, and the overall figure itself is of such a high quality in person. And as you lead out, you continue to see that nice yellowish brown, as well as the kind of slightly darker but very vibrant, almost orangish brown moving along the top, as well as darker browns moving along the absolute top of the paddle-like tail. And we've got that really cool striping effect leading out through the entire tail, all the way out there toward the tip. And the paddle-like tail of the Spinosaurus may have never looked better than it does on this figure. It looks absolutely awesome. Moving along the underside, we can really see that dark wash at play down here, but also the very nice fine detail of the figure. You can see the cloaca as we continue to move along the underside. Right here, you can really get a good feel for how muscular the legs are, even on the inside. You don't often see companies really portray the musculature of the insides of the legs, but they've done a great job of doing that. You can also see again more subtle application of the paint with some orangish tones, or actually more like pinkish tones on the undersides of the thighs. And then you can see moving through the underside again, it looks absolutely fantastic the entire way through. And then we've again got a really nice shot here of the head sculpt of our Spinosaurus, the very nicely painted eye. As you move down, you can see the Spinosaurus, of course, has its head facing away from us, so you can now see kind of more stretching of the skin in the neck over here. But again, the same really nice paintwork leading through. We do have the arm in a little bit of a different position as it's kind of picking up away from the body here, but you can really get a good feel for the musculature and everything. And again, the darkening of the coloration as you lead out into the fingers. As you lead back here into the stomach region, you can can see how the skin is now stretching away from the stomach with the leg kind of trailing right here. You can also see how the Spinosaurus is walking along. The toes are picking up off of the ground, which you can really see the tensing of the musculature of the leg because of the movement of the leg, which is really nice to see. Again, all sorts of subtle variation of color throughout, the dark wash at play, helping to continue to highlight the detail perfectly through the course of the figure. We have that nice striping effect leading along here in the stomach, but it's really subtle here before becoming a lot more vibrant leading out again into that paddle-like tail. We can also see the variations of browns up here in the sail of the Spinosaurus as we move along. And again, the really nice webbed toes of our Spino as you move down into the feet. And then you lead back out again into the paddle-like tail of the Spinosaurus. And just look at how cool that striping effect is leading out. Really nice flashiness out there on the end of the tail. Well, basically through the entire tail, that I think just is really quite flashy, but still really quite naturalistic. So without a shadow of a doubt, this is one of the best Spinosaurus figures you will find anywhere. As far as a size goes, for a length on our Spinosaurus, if we go from the back of the tail to the snout, about 13.5 inches, or around 34.5 centimeters. That's not a perfect measurement because it's kind of hard with the tail kind of leaning over this way so far. It's kind of hard to get from that tip to the tip of the snout. So again, kind of a rough measurement there. The highest point is obviously going to be the sail though, and you were looking at about just a hair under 5.5 inches, or right around, again, just a hair under 14 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A human being next to our Recur Spinosaurus, and you can see the Spino is definitely nicely sized. Obviously, not perfectly to scale with any figures here in this shot, but still showing you that, again, it is very impressive in the size department. When it comes to a comparison with some other Spinosaurus figures that are out on the market, we have the GR Toys / How Long Good version, which you can see is definitely a little bit bigger than our Recur version. But we do also have the PNSO version, the more recently released PNSO Spinosaurus, which is quite awesome to see that these two are pretty much the same size. Like overall, they are very, very similar in size and definitely look extremely cool next to each other. Of course, if you bring in the Papo Spinosaurus, that Spinosaurus as well is going to be a good bit larger than our Recur version because that Spinosaurus is just gigantic. But if you bring in the Favorite Co version of the Spinosaurus, you can now see that Recur wins in the size department. Then we've got the TNG version of the Spino, which you can see is also of a very similar size to the Recur version, just very different as far as the pose goes. We've also got the slightly older release of the Spinosaurus from PNSO as well, because I know many people bought that one, maybe didn't want to upgrade to the newer one that PNSO had released. So just in case you had that one, then of course this is another size comparison that might be beneficial to you. I could do this all day long though with these Spinos because there are so many Spinosaurus releases out there. We're going to have to cut it at some point here, so we'll stop here I think and do one more comparison with a dinosaur that is not a Spino. And that would be the brand new Recur Tyrannosaurus Rex, just to kind of give you an idea of how the Rex sizes up next to the Spinosaurus, and also just to kind of show off how amazing Recur is nowadays. So this brand new Recur Spinosaurus is gorgeous. Yet again, they are on such a roll, producing some of the most fun dinosaur figures out on the market anywhere right now, and also some of the nicest when it comes to the sculpt, the paint, everything, the quality of the figure, just how vibrant the detail is on the figure. Like everything has been so massively upgraded on these new Recur figures. It's amazing to see such a huge turnaround for a company. I've never seen this before. Like I've seen companies improve over time, but I've never seen a company just one day wake up and be like, you know what, we're redoing everything and making it a bajillion times better. And that is exactly what Recur has done. And you can see that yet again here with this Spinosaurus. It is absolutely jaw-droppingly gorgeous. The sculpt is really well done. Tons of fine detail throughout, showing the movement off perfectly, and of course the fine detail perfectly. All sorts of nice scales and everything throughout. Again, a good bit of variation to the different sizes and styles of the scales. You've got osteoderms, all of that fun stuff through the course of the body. You also have a really nice paint scheme for this one. Maybe the nicest paint scheme and paint application of any of the newer Recur releases as far as my own personal preference goes, because there's just so much to this one. All sorts of variation of color through the course of the body. The browns are really vibrant, like they just pop on the sculpt so nicely. And of course, they've captured all of the areas where you might want to see flashiness, like that red up in the crest, and of course that really subtle striping moving through the course of the tail, which looks so good. And as a whole, again, there's just so much really incredible paintwork, as well as the nice dark wash applied to this figure, that it just makes it a cut above the rest when it comes to the paint application. The pose is also nicely done, with the Spinosaurus just kind of walking along, and I also love the addition of an articulated jaw, with some incredible detail on the inside of the mouth as well. But overall, definitely a huge recommendation from me. So if you are interested in picking this up, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that. Or, like I told you in the Tyrannosaurus review, these are coming to Amazon from Recur very soon, within, I would think, the next few weeks. So you can, of course, order it on Amazon. One way or another, definitely pick this up. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.